In this part 4 of geopolitics, especially for Pakistani war threat scenarios, this is episode 4. In this, we'll deal with a Chinese iron brother to Pakistan. Before we go into it, I would like to go and delve into a Chinese intervention almost over 2000 years ago. It happened, and we'll go into that. That was called the Kushan Empire. The Kushan Empire existed about 30 to 375 AD. It was a syncretic empire formed by the Yuezhi in the Bactrian territories 4th century. Yuezhi basically is a northern Chinese tribe. It spread to encompass much of what is Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, eastern Iran, and northern India. And in India, as far as Saketi and Sarnath near Varanasi, where inscriptions have been found to the era of the Kushan Emperor, Kanishka the Great. Kushans were one of the 5 branches of the Yuezhi Confederation, an Indo-European nomadic people of Tocharian origin who migrated from northwestern Xinjiang province and Gansu and settled in ancient Bactria. The founder of the dynasty, Kujula Kadipsis, followed the Iranian cultural ideas and iconography after Greco-Bactrian, was follower of the Shaivite sect of Hinduism. 2 later kings, Venu, Kapsis, and Vadusa, were also patrons of Hinduism. Kushans in general were great patrons of Buddhism, and starting with Emperor Kanishka, they employed elements of Zoroastrianism in their pantheon. They played an important role in the spread of Buddhism to Central Asia, China, ushering in a period of relative peace for almost 200 years, called Pax Kushana. In the Punjab region, a lot of them settled, and the Kushans used the Greek language initially for administrative purposes, but soon began to use Eastern Iranian Bactrian language. Kanishka sent his armies north and south of the Karakorums and opened a direct road from Gandhara to China, which remained under Kushan control for more than a century, encouraged travel across the Karakoram and spread of Mahayana Buddhism to China. This is the background. So there has been a Chinese Pakistan area collaboration which spanned from Iran to India and going all the way up to Central Asia. Today, as we see, Pakistan has become very crucial for the growth of China. It imports almost $1 trillion or so, or exports to Middle East. It is most of its oil and gas imports are coming from Middle East. And the shortest route is through Pakistan, called CPEC. So Chinese strategically are very tied to Pakistan, and they've been cultivating this route since 1954. And that shows how strategic this area is for China. Not only Pakistan and China are very close, like iron brothers, but in addition to that, they are tied by common history and common interests. And the Pakistani interest and the Chinese interest coincide in this geopolitical part of the world. Going back to the geopolitics of the globe before we delve into Pakistan, there are 3 great powers left now: USA, Russia, and China. Americans have basically ditched Ukraine, and they are settling their spheres of influence with Russia. However, I think to the extent where the Europeans feel betrayed or not supported, but the Americans are adamant. They just basically cut off military aid to Ukraine, and I think they might even take stronger action against the Europeans if they don't get in line. Americans want to impose a kind of peace which they want over Ukraine and probably give concessions to the Russians. Now, after this, what's going to happen is the Americans and the Chinese will then determine their spheres of influence. And the areas of battlefield obviously will be Taiwan area as well as the CPEC area. And now we'll go dive deeper into what's happening in our region. Analyzing and repeating the threats again, we are in Pakistan is threatened, CPAC is threatened by the BLA, TTP, supported from Afghanistan, and now recently there have been Afghan military regular commanders being killed in Pakistan. So it looks like they're upping the support to the elements like the BLA, which is a separatist, and TTP, which is a radical organization. Now, India also is jumping in the fray, and they're declaring that the Sindh liberation, whatever they are, have joined with these guys, so it's going to be a big alliance. In short, it means that India will start supporting this radical system and methodology and this kind of ideology. India, in addition, is basically thinks they have some kind of an okay from the Americans to start taking action against Pakistan. But I think they'll be very careful till they get their own F-35s. Another thing to remember, we have discussed this earlier in one of our videos, that the Chinese have asked that they be allowed to bring in about 30,000 Chinese security people into Pakistan and have the security people in Pakistan working with them, or rather for them. So far, they've not been getting a good audience from Pakistan on this issue. However, now we'll delve into what the Chinese and the Pakistanis achieved when Asif Ali Zardari went to China. Asif Ali Zardari arrived in Beijing on February 4th to 8th, a 5-day trip. And as Pakistan tried to grapple with security and economic problems, there are also challenging Chinese projects there. There have been heavy attacks in BLA and a lot of casualties of the Pakistani security forces. However, China continues to invest heavily in Pakistan, the Balochistan, KPK areas, and the anti-government militants and other anti-Chinese militants are attacking them, especially the defending forces. In reviewing the recent history of the BLA attacks on the Chinese or the Pakistani security forces protecting them, the most memorable one is the Karachi Jinnah, where these guys were coming back from a vacation, Chinese, from the Bangkok, Thailand. And they were, as soon as they came out of the airport, they got attacked by suicide bombers. 2 Chinese were killed there. And in March, 5 nationals in the Pakistan drivers killed in a suicide bombing in KPK. However, one of the security guys at Zoo added the security and counter-terrorism situation continues to evolve. China concerns about Pakistan were changing to making frequent communication between two sides essential. Expanding China's security presence might be a crucial topic during this visit of Zardari. And Beijing has been pushing for large-scale security presence, but Islamabad not that interested. Terrorist forces in Pakistan are a great concern to China. In fact, this issue has now really gone at the very highest levels. Beyond the security issue, Islamabad is also promoting economic cooperation debt relief with China, and in particular to upgrade Pakistan Economic Corridor, a multi-billion-dollar road project. In the Zardari trip, Pakistan and China agreed to enhance intelligence sharing, deepen cooperation in security matters, as a part to bolster border security and counter-terrorism matters. The Interior Minister, Mr. Naqvi, and the Chinese Public Security Qi Jianjun in Beijing, Naqvi had to explain himself for attending an anti-China event in the United States, which obviously we have denied that. During the 2-hour meeting, they discussed the Pakistani police paramilitary force, enhancement of them by Chinese technology and expertise. Detailed conversation was held acquiring advanced equipment from China to improve law enforcement. Naqvi confirmed that he would procure modern policing technology from China, while both sides agreed to expand cooperation between China, Islamabad police and Beijing police, and also with Pakistan National Police Academy. China has brought out what is called a Global Security Initiative and the Global Civilization Initiative put together by President Xi Jinping. And the two sides agreed to step up international cooperation to tackle challenges. Pakistan is firmly supported by China. The situation continues to be Pakistan, continues to be determined by the international situation, which we'll now get into. On the international situation, looks like the the Russians and the Americans kind of got their act together. So they have established a sphere of influences. However, on the Pacific side and the Indo-Pacific side, spheres of influence are wide open. Americans have moved over more than 2 squadrons of the B-1 bombers to Guam, which brings them within good striking range of China, and also to more than 2 squadrons in Diego Garcia, which brings them into good striking distance of both Iran and as well as, if need be, on CPAC. Now, this is where the situation is beginning to evolve now. Now, we expect that the Russians will kind of neutralize between China and the United States. However, India and the US will collaborate with regards to Pakistan and increase the threat. They will also expected to support the BLA and the TTP. These are going to get really good problems for Pakistan. Two things we have to watch very carefully. One is the end game of Ukraine, which frees up America to focus on CPAC and Taiwan. And the second thing is the China's Taiwan focus, what happens next on it. The other one, which is still in process, is how the Americans and the Israelis handle Iran. Once that is settled and Ukraine is settled, then the arena of competition will shift towards the Pacific and Indo-Pacific. That means Taiwan and CPAC. According to a European member of parliament, has claimed, and I rightfully think he's right, that Donald Trump has given Europe 3 weeks to sign Ukraine's surrender. So US seems to have a timeline. So that's probably no later than middle to end of March. I think at the same time, that's the same time frame to settling the Iran issue. So we should see that either at the end of Ramadan or beginning after Eid. That should be pretty much gloves off, and they're going to take care of that issue. Currently, Iran is supposedly has enough to make 6 bombs. And there were 3 bombs about 3 months ago. So I think they don't want that to increase anymore. Donald Trump's negotiations with Russia are not only occurring at Ukraine's expense, but also at a broader implications for China. Historically, the opposite was true. Henry Kissinger's strategic opening to China contributed to the Soviet Union's collapse. Now, Trump administration is playing a calculated game with Russia, aiming to secure economic benefits, such as cheap raw materials, but attempting to reshape China-Soviet relations. The goal appears to be to pull Moscow away from Beijing and weaken the growing alignment. To remember, on the recent times, the US has held up all military aid to Ukraine. So I don't think Ukraine has months or years end. I think if they continue down that path, they may be seeing impending collapse within weeks. However, they have some supply which Biden, I think, shoved there and stocked it up for them. They may even last a few months, but the writing is on the wall. Pakistan also needs to keep an eye on that $397 million, a US-backed program. It is said to monitor the use of US F-16s. I'm sure they're monitoring that and plus more, and probably providing the information to rival India. So I think the tightening of the nuts and bolts is starting to happen. In the meantime, China Jinping recently signed an order to establish a legal framework for conducting non-war military operations, most commonly known as military operations other than war, with the primary goal of preventing challenges to China's interests from emerging, maintaining national sovereignty, regional stability, and creating standard procedures for regulating PLA's conduct of these operations. And with the trade war going on between China and the rest, China and America, this is getting very interesting. The trade war, which US just imposed tariffs 25% on Mexico, and Canada, and they applied 20% tariffs on China. China retaliated to do on American foodstuffs. They added tariffs to that. That should put some pain in there. But what is most interesting in conclusion, what the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Lin Jian said, if United States persists in waging a tariff war, a trade war, or any other kind of war, the Chinese side will fight them to the bitter end. Now looks like the bitter end has started. For whom it's bitter remains to be seen. Thank you.